Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 2 of the Scud Spotter podcast. I am Gerald.
And I am Mitch.
Yeah, and we are going to talk a lot today about a couple different things. So, first up, I'm sure many of you know the new Twisters movie came out, I guess this last Friday, but apparently there's like early release or something I didn't know about. To be honest, I'm not a big movie person. I don't know about Mitch, but like I'm not one that just goes to the movies all that often, so I don't really know how all that works. But either way, the main release was this past Friday. Personally, I went and saw it. I drove all the way from Charlotte to Raleigh to see it with some other meteorology friends, so that was a fun time. And one of the big things we're going to talk about today is just breaking down, not even necessarily the movie, so you don't have to worry about any spoilers here, but what is real life storm chasing like compared to maybe what you see in the new Twisters movie and even the original Twister movie, as they were kind of similar in just generally how they depicted it. So yeah, we'll definitely do a lot about that. Mitch, you do anything cool this week?
Uh, yeah, I played some video games, which I typically don't do much of. I'm sure people that are somewhat active um, video gamers know about the new college football game that dropped off. And I'm definitely not a big gamer, but I would be lying if I said that I did not take a day or two off just to play a video game. So don't judge me for that, but I definitely got my geek on. But I got my cup filled. So I did a lot of video gaming and just working.
Yeah, nice, awesome. I saw the new game. I saw some Charlotte 49er football gameplay. I've yet to get the game only because one, I wanted to see how people reacted to it initially, and I know Mitch can probably attest. He had some things he liked and some things he probably maybe didn't like so much. Also, though, last time I played video games like seriously on a console was like early high school. So I've got my like Xbox One S here from 7 years ago, which unfortunately the game doesn't run on. So it's a bit of a real financial commitment to go get a new console and get the game. But I'm sure I'll break down eventually. But yeah, so well, awesome. I'm glad that we all had an active week. So I guess with that said, we'll go ahead and get into the first topic. So again, for those of you that saw the movie, let us know in the comments if you're watching this live during the premiere. Definitely start chatting about it down there. Which, by the way, I'll throw this in here. Last week's podcast episode was the first premiere style. Anything I did on my YouTube channel, and that was fun. That was cool to watch. Like down in the comments, people watching it live. I know Mitch watched some of it. Mitch, you want to talk about kind of how you felt about that?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome just seeing people engage. And I think that even people on my YouTube, they said, hey, that was a really good idea, really cool, you guys getting together. And I do think this is going to be something really cool to do in the downtime. When it's crazy, it's tough. So, and I think next month is going to be pretty wild as far as how busy it's going to be with just weather and then personal life. So, it's a great thing to do in the downtime. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So, all right, cool. We'll stop rambling about nonsense. Although, I guess the good thing is this is a podcast, so that's kind of the whole thing. I find myself early on in like YouTube videos, I'll be like, all right, well, I've been rambling too long. Let's move on. But I guess here, like, the whole point is to ramble. So, anyway, so I saw the Twisters movie. Personally, I thought it was great. I loved it. There was some fun little meteorology references in there. We had them talk about Cape a little. We talked about wind shear, obviously. They even talked about the cap, or the inversion that we often see in the atmosphere that kind of prevents storms. Now, Mitch didn't see the movie. One thing I will throw out here that Mitch probably doesn't know about the movie is they really did a interesting job of depicting modern day YouTube storm chasing. In fact, YouTube was a big part of the movie, and kind of the it's not a negative thing because it's just the way it is, but they kind of talked about maybe the Reed Timmer style of chasing a little bit, which me and Mitch do as well. So again, this isn't, a hate on Reed or anything, but a lot of the like screaming, freaking out, like filming it, live streaming it kind of thing. So that was interesting. But so me and Mitch are going to talk about what an average day chasing is like, and I'll let Mitch start and tell me kind of, or tell all of us, the process that goes into a normal chase day for him, severe weather wise. Now, if you want to throw anything in there about hurricanes or anything else, definitely feel free to do so. But the floor is all yours, Mitch.
Yeah, with severe weather, I pretty much make up in my mind if I'm going to chase the day before, but I'm also pretty spontaneous with my chases. I don't announce them much I don't make a big hoopla about them. But I'll wake up and sometimes I'll decide not to chase the last second, but typically it's the opposite way of things. Typically, I'll decide at the last second that I'm going to chase. And I think I mentioned in the last podcast, I have a really cool job that allows me to, if I have time at work to use, they'll say, hey, yeah, and go ahead and use it and go enjoy yourself and go storm chasing. So, I typically will look at some models at the last second, and then I'll hop in my car. And a lot of people on social media will be like, Mitch, what's your plan, man? Where are you going to end up? Where are you going to wait? And I never have an answer for anybody. I literally just drive, and typically I drive right when things are going down. A great example of that is when I want to go chase in Western Kentucky. I literally just drove from Columbia straight across the mountains, across the entire state of Tennessee, all the way to Western Kentucky, right up to a tornado-producing supercell. There was no waiting time. There was no sitting back, waiting and kind of talking to people. I just drove straight through and chased it. And that's how a lot of my chases are. So, typically I wake up, load up on some energy drinks, listen to some good music, find my target, and chase it. And then when I think that the day's done, the atmosphere is too worked up and we ain't going to get anything else, I head on back home. A lot of people, they want to get in a hotel and stuff like that. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'll try to drive all the way through the night just to get home. I'm very cheap. I don't like staying in hotels or motels or anything like that. So I try to do it the cheapest way possible. But there's nothing crazy to mine. Some people make it a big 2 or 3 day fiasco, and that's great. Especially when you're chasing something like a hurricane. I think the ideal situation, if you don't work a full-time job or you got time to burn, is to get there the day before, scope out everything where you're gonna try to get the core of that hurricane. And I'm using tropics as an example. And then obviously the day of, ride it out. And then you just kind of linger around, the next day until everything's cleared out, and then go on and head on out. But I don't really have the luxury of doing that. I work a full-time job, and plus I start missing my family. So I try to get home as fast as possible. So I guess to round all that off, I make it normally 1 day, and then I hightail it back home. So nothing too special. No rituals. No putting on the right socks or a special pair of underwear or anything like that. It's just kind of get in my car and do the thing, man.
Yeah, speaking of rituals a little bit, something that was kind of interesting in the movie that came out is the main character is a girl, and she's like this great chaser, and they talk about instincts a lot in the movie. Where they talk about, she just has that instinct for storm. Mitch, do you think that is a real thing? Do you think, now in the movie there were times she was like blowing dandelions and like, the little petals were going in the sky and she like magically knew. Now obviously like that's not a thing, but personally I think some people really do have just like a knack for knowing. Like, I don't know if it's just, I don't even want to say it's like a gift from God or anything. I just think that they're maybe that good at looking at the sky and just kind of knowing what's the right storm and what's not. What do you think about that?
I think people are just really skilled at it. Some people are just really good at it. Some people just, I wouldn't say aren't. I really don't think anybody can really be bad at storm chasing. I mean, you got radar scope. A newbie can go out there and find a CC drop or a velocity scan, see where there's spin going on in the storm. But I do think some people, you can say all day, hey, they're just always at the right place at the right time. But at the end of the day, when they're at the right place at the right time enough, you're starting to think, okay, this guy or this girl knows what the heck they're doing. But I can tell you one example of a really gut feeling that I got was when I got the tornadoes in South Carolina a couple years back in April. And I was on my way to South Georgia where there was a moderate risk. It was really wind driven. But I got just outside of Augusta and, got a feeling like, man, you need to go back to your state. There's a 10% risk, 10% hatch risk of tornadoes. You're going to kick yourself if you drive all the way to South Georgia and all of a sudden tornadoes start popping off about an hour from your house, and I listened to that, and ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made storm chasing. Now I've made some bad decisions too, but yeah, I mean, I believe you get gut feelings. I think people have a knack for it, I guess you would say, and some people are just, I mean, you do it enough, do anything enough, you'll eventually get good at it. Some people faster than others.
Yeah, I'll personally say I definitely am a big believer in the gut feeling part of it. Now, as for what causes that gut feeling, that's anybody's guess, whether that's just intuition or, again, whatever. But I'm gonna kind of derailing a little bit here. I do think some people in the meteorology field, and this doesn't just have to be storm chasing. This can be broadcast or research or maybe even the National Weather Service or whatever part. But some people are really, I think, born with this being their calling, and they do have a special ability to do it. I think broadcast, speaking on that, for example, some people just kind of have the it factor in front of a camera, and other people, maybe not so much. I don't really think that's something you can learn. And I think there's a lot to storm chasing that's the same way, to where I'm not sure that some of it you just can't really learn as much as you just kind of know. You just kind of have that feeling. Because, I mean, there are some people that are very book smart and, know everything about every type of tornado and every type of boundary, and you put them out there and to storm chase, and it just, it probably won't go very well. While other people who might not even have a meteorology degree, but just kind of grew up loving the weather and that's their calling, they, might actually do kind of good at it. So I do think there is a little bit of gut and intuition, and telling my own story about that. And I said this last podcast, and I say it all the time, but when I saw those tornadoes back in May, that was a big gut feeling day. I mean, it takes a lot of maybe craziness or maybe it's stupidity, I don't know, to wake up on a random day that is only a marginal risk, and to drive 3 hours just knowing in your gut you're going to see a tornado. And there have been days that I've woken up on 10% tornado days, and I've been like, I don't really know if I'll see anything. But then other days where it's a marginal risk, I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing a tornado today, and it happens. So I do think there is some gut gut feelings that go into it. So, Mitch, also talk a little bit about the in-between time while chasing. In the movie, and a lot of times whenever we see, like, tornado chasing movies, they kind of just show the action part of it. They show, they just arrive at the storm and they're there. What do you do on those days when you kind of leave too early? Or, because obviously only about 10% of chasing, I would say, is actually, like, looking at a storm or photographing a storm or videoing it or whatever. So, talk a little bit about all that other time.
Yeah, so I don't enjoy it at all. Now I hear Reed Timmer talking about they'll be meeting out there during a big day in the plains and they're throwing the football. I would enjoy the heck out of that. But to me, I don't live in the plains, and I'm not about to drive to Oklahoma to chase a big risk. I almost did. I don't know if you remember that, but I almost drove all the way out there to that high risk, and thank the good Lord I did not. But just was itching. But anyways, if I had a lot of people around me that I was comfortable around, and and obviously I'm a person that certainly I can make people around me comfortable. I feel like I can, and so I mean it's not like it wouldn't be easy having conversation and stuff like that. But to me, I hate sitting around. Like I'm not. Like if there's going to be a big severe weather event, for example, in Myrtle Beach, and it's not supposed to start till really 5 or 6 o'clock. Like I'm not going to leave at 8 o'clock in my house and get there at 11 a.m. and just fart around the Grand Strand or anything like that. I will just absolutely go insane. And it seems like the more that I sit around, the more I have regrets of leaving. I'll start like down talking the setup of like, man, why did I leave so early? Why did I even leave? So I do better when I drive. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I do better when I drive right up to a setup and it's go time. And it's like I just do better. So I guess I don't have really a great example what happens in those downtimes because a lot of times I'm alone. But there's been some great examples chasing tropical systems that I've had people around me. I've had Josh, a guy named Josh in the weather community, Bryce, Aaron. Example would be last year when I was one of the last storm chasers down there in Perry, Florida with Idalia. And I met up with Bryce and Aaron. And if I didn't meet up with them, I probably would have fell asleep in my car. But, they kept the conversation going. We all were talking. And next thing we knew, the sun was coming up and the hurricane was making landfall. So you're good. It's always good when you have people around you, especially when you're only running off about a couple hours of sleep. It's great to be with somebody. It's great to be chasing with somebody. It's safer, much more safer. And but when you kind of get there too early, I'm not a big fan of that. I do not like sitting around at all. So.
Yeah, and that's something that they didn't show a lot in the movie, but kind of sitting and waiting is such a big part of storm chasing that a lot of people don't realize. Obviously, they see the fun videos, they see, all the crazy pictures and stuff. What they don't see is the drive there, the drive back, the gas station parking lot, or the jokes as I make around here, the Dollar General parking lot, because I somehow always find myself in a Dollar General parking lot while storm chasing, it feels like. But yeah, no, there's a lot of time, and on the days that the chases fail, like you said, Mitch, those parking lot times can really a lot of contemplation maybe going on. So yeah, definitely. So I guess yeah, go ahead.
I will mention too, and you probably know all about this. The peaks and highs of the emotions when storm chasing are brutal because you'll be driving towards the setup. Occasionally you'll stop, check the radar, be like, man, this looks like crap now. And then you'll go about 30 minutes down the road and be like, man, this is looking good again now. So the peaks and the highs emotion wise is wild. One day, one minute you're feeling jacked up, like this is the day. The next you're 3 or 4 hours away from the house. You're like, holy crap, why did I leave? This was a wasted day off at work. I miss my kids. And then 30 minutes later, you find yourself jacked up again, like, oh, here we go. Look, there's a storm. And those are brutal. Those are absolutely brutal. And it's really on the way there. On the way back, whether you got something or not, it is what it is. It's a long drive back. Of course, you're feeling better when you got something and you feel like the trip was worth it. But in my head, I always try to tell myself it's always worth it. It's experience. If there was no big tornado event or whatever, it's great because probably nobody's lives were impacted. If it was big, you had an opportunity to be there, help somebody in a situation. You got some content, and you just all together, you got more experience. But I want to throw that out there. I'm sure that you can relate to that somewhat.
Yeah, and even just those highs and lows can come 15, 20 minutes apart too. Like that's the thing. A lot of times it is, like a big widening. But and again, I tell this story all the time because it's my best chase. But to just give you an example of high and low, when I saw those tornadoes in May, again that storm looked great. And I get to it and it looks great, and then it literally fell apart on me like the second I got there. So I went from like level, we'll say 7.5 out of 10 high, like, yeah, this is cool, this is nice, down to like a 3 in about 10-15 minutes. And if it was a level 2.9, I'm probably driving back to Charlotte, but it was level 3, and then next thing I know, it's like it's off the scale because I'm seeing this tornado right in front of me. So those highs and lows can come and go so quickly. And I think a big part of chasing is not letting that sway how you chase, because again, if I would have gone home, this podcast probably wouldn't even been happening because I would have had no content to talk about in the first episode. So you kind of gotta, and like Mitch said, you gotta take every chase for what it's worth. Again, some chases you get the best video of your life. Other chases you just got to tell yourself, well, at least I got home safe. Like at the end of the day, that's the most important part. Even if I blew $200 in gas and food and whatever else, I'm back home safe, and that's worth something. Also, any day. Personally, people say this about fishing. I say the same thing about chasing. Any bad day chasing is better than a day at work because. Personally, I like traveling. I know Mitch says he's not the biggest fan of just driving and all. I could drive till the cows come home just for the fun of it with the music blaring and the windows down. So I always try to find that fun part out of it. But yeah, a big part is you gotta know how those highs and lows. You gotta know that they'll come, and you gotta know that it's not the end of the world if you're in the low. It's not. One thing I will say that is kind of the coolest part about a good chase day, obviously it's the seeing the whatever you saw that made it a good chase day, but that drive home is so rewarding. I mean, the music hits different. Usually there's like a vibrant sunset like that came out of nowhere. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest sunset of all time. And another part that is kind of underrated is if you got something really good, is your phone is blowing up the entire ride home with retweet,
It
retweet,
is.
like, and that is
Yeah,
personally that is such a rewarding feeling.
it is.
Um, yeah. Also, I like to something I do is I'm a big Waffle House person when chasing. So that waffle right after with that cup of coffee, chef's kiss, nothing better than it. Probably the best 15 minutes you'll get of your life, or at least best 15 minutes I'll get. I don't know about everybody else, but so yeah. Do you have any fun
No,
like chasing traditions, Mitch? Like again, I talked about the Waffle House thing. How about you?
I'd like Waffle House on a chase too, especially when I can have me a couple crappy meals. As you know, I'm on a pretty big kick with just trying to be in really good shape. But yeah, a Waffle House hits on a storm chase. I usually get it on the way there. But man, I'm just your waffle and a order of bacon kind of guy. Like I don't even get the All Star special, and I eat that in like 4 minutes. I mean, it just people always say Waffle House is consistently average. I think it's consistently above average. I love Waffle House. But yeah, as far as any traditions, I don't have any. I probably should. I probably would if I was a full time chaser. Um, Trying to think of anything. I just try to keep the energy high. To me, like you said on the way home, I remember I was on the way home from chasing Hurricane Ida in 2021, and I was dead tired. I had no business driving still, I'll be honest with you. So finally, I had to just stop, and the sun was just coming up. I was one of the first ones out of there. I don't even know how I got out of Louisiana. And I stopped at some gas station on 10 in southern Mississippi and stopped at a Pilot gas station. And there was that was before I was a big coffee drinker. Um, I drink coffee just about every day now, but I got some kind of coffee, and no lie, this coffee was labeled super ultra energy coffee, and I'm
Oh,
thinking,
that's
yeah,
how you
this is
know it's the
some.
good stuff. That's the good stuff,
I was
Mitch.
I was like, this has to be some sort of false advertisement crap. I I took that, I got it. The coffee did not taste good, but I crap you not, it hit in like 3 minutes, and I went from having no business driving to just on feeling like I was on top of the world. And I felt like that. I felt like that energy stayed with me all the way like through Alabama to Georgia. It really got me home. It really just was a kickstart. Now, when I got about to Atlanta, I was needing me some kind of other form of energy again. But I'll never forget that. I still tell that story. That super ultra energy coffee that was at a random pilot station in Mississippi, it gave me just this unreal boost of energy. I just turned my radio station all the way up, and like you said, my phone was going pretty crazy. I was feeling pretty good. So
Maybe we need to name this podcast episode Super Ultra Energy Chasing. That's episode 2, everybody. If I can remember that
that's
whenever I
right.
make the thumbnail in an hour or two. But yeah, okay. Well, yeah. Honestly, energy drinks or any kind of caffeine is another big part of chasing that they don't show you in the movies. Yeah, it's a must. It's a must because honestly, it's a great. As terrible as it sounds, it's a great way to fight those lows whenever you're in a low. Because obviously, when you're in one of those highs, you kind of get your own adrenaline rush and your own boost of energy. But yeah, if it's a no go, nothing's happening. Yeah, you're gonna need to pop a Red Bull, pop a cup of coffee, pop a super ultra, whatever you just said, energy. Yeah, that's a that's a must. So yeah, tradition wise for me, something I haven't done yet that I kind of have thought about doing is I'm a sticker guy. I like stickers. If you can't tell, my refrigerator behind me has stickers all over it. My computer that you can't see has stickers all over it. I kind of want to get a bumper sticker for every city and or town I've seen a tornado in. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. So I would probably need to get a Marion one for the one I saw in Marion a week or two ago. So I don't know. I considered about starting that, but I think I need to start, or I need to see a couple more tornadoes in different places before I do it. Or maybe not. Maybe I should just do it. But that's kind of an idea I had. I don't have any lucky socks though, or anything like you said, Mitch. I know some chasers probably do, but
Oh yeah.
that's not quite my thing. So, all right, well, cool. Yeah. Something I guess I didn't really even talk about like an average chase day for me. I just kind of piggybacked off of what you said. One thing I will mention, average chase day wise, is the forecasting part of it for me. Um, Generally, I like to do obviously forecasting ahead of time, like a couple days ahead. If I know, like, if the SPC already has like a slight risk out on day 3, then yeah, I'm forecasting it well ahead of time and kind of hyping myself up before we even get there. But the other days, it could just be that morning that I wake up, I check it, I'm like, YOLO, might as well, and the night before I thought maybe not. Every chase is different, and that's another thing I love about it. That's a thing I love about meteorology in general, and I think that's one of the reasons that I'll never truly work a day in my life is because every day is different in the weather. Every cloud is in a different place. Every storm does a different thing. And there's something fun about that. And if you saw the Twisters movie, this isn't a spoiler either, I don't think, but one of the lines in it was, what makes it so exciting is what we know and what we don't know combined. Like, we know what causes tornadoes. We know it's wind shear, it's a certain amount of energy in the atmosphere, it's some sort of front causing lift. What we don't know is why this storm does it in that same environment and this storm doesn't in the exact same environment. And that is something that is so cool to me. And that's just, I don't know, there's something super cool about that will always excite me about the weather. And I think excites a lot of people. It's just something about the unknown, about our planet, and a little bit of what we do know and what we don't know. So that's pretty cool. I guess.
Well, there's
Yeah, go ahead.
there's so much we don't know, and I think you know that's awesome. There's so much we don't know. Like I don't think we know enough to forecast an entire season, a season out, like some people try. I I barely. I think we struggle enough forecasting 7 days out. So, it just tells you how much we have to advance, and that's exciting to me. It really is. So.
Yeah, and that I guess can even kind of lead us into our next topic here. Is that's one reason a lot of people storm chase is, for the research side of things. Like Reed Timmer, obviously, the well-known storm chaser, kind of flying drones into tornadoes now to collect data and shooting things up into tornadoes and kind of all this fun sciencey things. Mitch, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of, what was the reason the first time you ever chased, and has the reasoning changed since then, and just kind of, why do you do it?
Yeah, my reasoning has not changed. I do it for the adrenaline rush. Sometimes it's not even for the adrenaline rush. For example, um, I consider going to go see fall foliage storm chasing in a way, and I know that's not you're not chasing a storm, but I would put it in the same category. Anything, weather obviously in a way makes the leaves change, so I would consider that. But even chasing winter weather events, I'm not as big of a fan of chasing them. I wouldn't drive a super long time to chase it, but sometimes it's just capturing a moment. Um, and and you would know this. You do a little bit more photography than I do. That's something I would love to venture in a little bit more. But just capturing a moment, and sometimes that moment can just be something that has low energy. It's just something like a beautiful picture. So I live for those moments too. But also, you guys, most people tuning in probably know how crazy I act on social media. I'm a big high energy person also. So, you're going to probably catch me screaming in the eye wall of a hurricane. Now, I've one thing that has changed with me is, you know, you're not going to catch me, screaming while a tornado is, and I've never really seen this in person, but you're not going to catch me screaming when a tornado is going right through a neighborhood, destroying houses and stuff like that. Some people do that. Whether that's 99% of them, that's probably not what they mean by it. Like they, are getting excited about someone's lives being destroyed. But you got to have some sense about you, and all those things. But yeah, I mean, I do it for the adrenaline. I do it for those moments. Um, and sometimes in those high paced moments, it feels like things are going in slow motion. You like have to take it all in. And, I remember just recently, going to Chasing Kentucky. There was a time when that tornado had pulled off, and I made a video of it. It was like 10 seconds, but I'm just looking down this dark and gloomy road in Kentucky, and the lightning is just flashing in the distance. It's pitch black, and it's just illuminating the road and the trees around it. And it was very spooky, but at the same time, it was just like, I don't know, it just had some sort of aura about it. And, it's those moments right there. You just appreciate nature and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah, that's good stuff. I honestly, my reasoning is probably pretty similar, all things considered. Um, yeah, so I think obviously a lot of people chase for the video content of it, even if some people chase for different reasons for getting video. Obviously, I mean, there's no surprise, and this is one reason that storm chasing gets a lot of flack, and something that even the Twisters movie in the beginning kind of touched on a little bit, is some people chase just with the goal of making a couple bucks off a video. I know me and Mitch both aren't those guys because, quite frankly, we've chased long enough and have made I've probably made maybe $10 most off of all the chasing content.
yeah, I haven't made any. Some people get news stations reaching out to them, and people will want news stations to pay them for a picture of a cumulus cloud the size of a cotton ball out there. Reach out through my email and my people through Billy Bob Weather Industries and see if you can get this license and all that. I don't care about all that. I'm going to post it on my YouTube. If it makes me 13 cents, if it makes me $10, that's cool. But yeah, I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. Me and Mitch, I'll just tell you all right now, we are not in it for the money because if we were, we would have been kicked out a long time ago for not being profitable. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
definitely not the motivation. But one big reason I do go out is for video and photos. But I do it for more of the documentation side of things. And one thing I absolutely love about the storm chasing we get to do is we do it somewhere that nobody else is documenting it. They're not taking pictures of it. I can think of maybe 10 storm chasers from Georgia through Virginia that, have documented multiple different types of things multiple times. And I don't mean just, Farmer Joe in his backyard who pulled out a camera and saw a tornado. Obviously, that's its own thing. But in terms of people actually going out with the goal of doing it, that's one big reason I do it. And for example, that drone video I got of the tornado in Marion is probably, in all honesty, not to toot my own horn, because I've had plenty of failed chases, trust me. But that's probably some of the only real drone video of actual tornadoes in South Carolina. I've looked elsewhere, I haven't really found anything else. So to me, that's super cool to know that I was able to document a rare type of event in an area that is underserved with people doing that. Also, the documenting it is a great way to just have memories to look back on. Like Mitch said, one big cool thing about storm chasing is just the living in the moment and being out there with Mother Nature and just kind of seeing how our planet functions. It puts things into perspective for me. Like if I'm having a bad week with, let's say I had a bad test or I got dumped by somebody, I don't even know, come up with any kind of excuse to have a bad week when you're 20. It won't matter if I'm out there seeing, some kind of cool sunset or rainbow or a shelf cloud or a wall cloud, or it doesn't even have to be a tornado. It can just be something cool, and it puts everything back into perspective. It's like, wow, this is crazy that we are lucky enough to live on this planet and see these sorts of things, and that's so cool to me. And every time I take a picture, like the one on my wall right next to me here, the Milky Way, it's just like that's something that again, if I'm having a bad day, I can look at that and remember that exact moment where nothing else mattered except for that I'm lucky enough to be alive and blessed by God to live on this planet and in such a beautiful part of it. So that's a big reason I chase. Also, obviously, it's cool to have things go viral and all. Again, not even for the monetary side of it because that's not something that we benefit from. But it is cool to see these cool people share your video and say, "Wow, look at this person doing this cool thing." It's obvious. I mean, I don't think I think anybody would be cool. Would be excited to have something like that
Yeah.
happen. So,
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're trying to build a product, you you want your stuff to pop off. Everything connects, especially, what me and Gerald are doing. Um, we're active in the weather community. We both have successful YouTube channels and, um, pretty outspoken. So, you know, we would be both lying to ourselves if we said that at least a small portion of the reason wasn't to get exposure, kind of bring your brand out there. And in a way, you want to kind of assert yourself, even though that shouldn't be the main driver. Is just try to say, hey, I'm this ranked storm chaser out there because I know that I'm no one special when it comes to storm chasing or anything like that. I try to do it when I can, but everything connects. So, you you want to, in a way, you know be known as an overall talent and everything you do with the weather. So, for sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm human. Um, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I have not gotten any great weather content in a long time as far as storm chasing. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on myself to get out there and to really capture something awesome. And I ain't gonna lie, I was feeling like that a little bit before I went to Kentucky, and that was the first tornado I got on film in over 2 years. So it was like, man, it is time to go out there and really, get something if I can, but that's not something that completely controls the reason why you storm chase. You just, you want to try to make your platform grow and continue to do that. And storm chasing is a great way to do it. Just to show that what you do is quite broad. It's larger. You don't just get on YouTube and talk weather. You also chase it. And it's like, hey, just a reminder, I am a storm chaser also. I don't just get on YouTube and just, jab my jaw off there. So
He's a YouTuber, storm chaser, and podcaster. Everybody, so I mean, he does it all.
there you
You
go.
gotta put that in the Twitter bio. But yeah, I kind of like to compare it to like a football player. Obviously, a quarterback of a team. He obviously loves the sport, or he wouldn't be doing it. But he also wants to be the best quarterback in the game. Like that's it's just like that with storm chasing. We do it because we love it. But at the same time, who doesn't want to be good at it? No one does something with the hope that they're bad at it. Obviously, so yeah, awesome. So we were talking about that. I'm trying to think where we left off with that, but yeah. So again, that's kind of why we storm chase. Let us know also below if you're storm chasing. Why you do it. Also, if you don't storm chase, why not? What keeps you from doing it? Because I will tell you a couple things that keep me from storm chasing certain times. Is one, money. That is a big one. Obviously, if I was a millionaire right now, then I would get in my car every day and drive anywhere for the dumbest of things. So that's one big thing. Also, something I will say that doesn't necessarily keep me from doing it, but one reason I don't think I would necessarily do it full time if I could is I think it would lose some of the excitement, or maybe not excitement, but whenever I was talking earlier about those moments where it's just like, wow, this is it puts everything, into perspective. I think I would lose that feeling if I did it more often. I think I'd kind of get burnt out a little. And one big fear I have is turning chasing into a job. I don't ever want it to be a job. I don't ever want to feel like I have to go out and chase. I only want to do it because I want to. And so that's something that also keeps me from doing it maybe more often than even if I had unlimited resources. But what about you, Mitch?
Yeah, and if you can read the virtual body language of storm chasers out there in the community, and you can tell they think like that. I mean, and I guess you can give them somewhat of a reason because they do it for a living. But you know, that's a tough gig to do for a living. I mean, you have to really have a go-getter mentality, and there's a lot of people that do. Connor Croft is the first one that I think of. He, shout out to him. He went from just a regular old storm chaser to now he has a very successful live feed and he does well. He went all in. You have to go all in. I don't think something like storm chasing is something you can go, excuse my language, but half-ass in. You have to. It's something that you really have to go all in on. And I think there's a lot of things that, weather related or not, that you have to have that mentality. Really, you should have that mentality about everything. But let's be real. If I want to quit and and bake cookies for a living. Obviously I can't do that, right? So, um, but yeah, it's you gotta have the mentality to go out there, but you can't. I think some storm chasers put a lot of pressure on themselves to produce, and we can't sit here and lie to us. Sometimes I even put pressure on myself. I can't speak for you, Gerald, but sometimes you're like, I remember Gerald, for example, he's like, dude, I'm really ready to get my first tornado. And, all I could tell him as his friend and be like, hey, man, it's going to happen. And it's probably going to happen when you least expect it. And it certainly did on a marginal day. But I think if you ever get too lost in the storm chasing to the point where you feel like you have to chase a slight risk about 14 states away, then, man, that's a tough place to be. It really is. And, yeah, for me, I don't ever plan on being a full-time chaser either. YouTube will always be, and talking weather would be my number one priority. And then chasing will be a second if weather becomes a full-time gig. So, I think my biggest fear, to kind of relate back to what you say, the fear of losing time is my biggest fear. When I have a failed storm chase, and it's not more of a money thing. I mean, money we can earn and get back. It's more of a time. You can't get time back. So when I go out and chase an entire day, sometimes I'm out for an entire day and night, don't get back the next morning. Even that one night I miss with my kids, it eats me alive. And it also kills me that like I burnt a vacation day at work if it was during the week. And just missing time, as weird as that sounds, even though you think, hey, it's just a day. Um, it messes with your routine. It messes with a lot of things. And I'm a big routine oriented person. So I think missing time and not being able to get that back sometimes kills me a little bit more than it should. A lot more than it should, I would say.
Yeah. Personally, that is not a fear generally I run into. But again, we have different lives and different reasons to do or not do something. And like you said, with not doing it full time, yeah, I definitely don't think, or absolutely no, I couldn't do it the full time way that somebody like Connor does it. Even though I know he loves his life and he loves what he does, and kudos to him for it. Same thing for Reed Timmer. I don't think I could do it that way. But I would like if I work for a news station that has or gives me the ability to on like a day that I'm not necessarily needed in studio. I would love to go out into the field and storm chase and do some infield reporting, and I think that would be a ton of fun. Things like that. But again, that's although it's for a living, it's not like a full time thing. It's still just once in a blue moon sort of thing. But yeah, that's maybe a little bit. That's a bucket list item of mine, which leads us into our next point, and kind of how we're gonna wrap this up now that we're 45 minutes into it. We'll kind of end with some bucket list things. So, Mitch, we've talked a lot about storm chasing and all. What are some bucket list items for you, chasing wise or YouTube wise, or even if you just have some cool life bucket lists, like taking the Gamecocks to a national championship on NCAA football 25? That could count too if you want to put that in here. But yeah, what you got?
This might take you by surprise, Gerald, because I haven't really talked to you about this one. But yeah, of course, I want to talk. I want to chase a big hurricane. I think that's inevitably going to happen this hurricane season. But one of the big things I would love to do is chase an epic lake effect snow band up near Buffalo or something. That's going to be something that's going to run me a few days. I would probably do something like that with Bryce or something that has a big truck and stuff. I wouldn't take my I wouldn't take my Corolla up there and try to chase that.
I think you should fix your Mazda up and take the Mazda up to Lake Erie. What you think?
Yeah, it wouldn't make it out. It's tough. It'll run over some pine trees, but I don't know if it'll make it out of that. But something I would love to do is to get there, and typically it happens in November or early December. You get there, there's no snow on the ground. Get there, even a day before it starts. I know a couple people up there that would say they would love to have me. I forgot the dude's handle. It's Buffalo something, but he's a cool guy that lives in the Buffalo area. He covers the heck out of those. There's two of them that live in the Buffalo area that covers the heck out of those lake effect snow bands. But I think that would be cool. It would obviously be something that I could not just drive there and then drive right back like a severe weather chase. But I actually would enjoy to chase more winter weather as we go from late fall through winter. I mean, I would love to chase a nor'easter too. One of my weird fantasy things I wouldn't call it a fantasy, but one of the weird things I would love to do, wouldn't call it weird either, but as I would love to go to New York City, as chaotic as this sounds, for a nor'easter around Christmas time. I think that that would be cool. The holiday, Christmas time. I think you could get a
That would
lot
be a
of great
vibe
weather.
that you could not match. You could not match
You
that
could
vibe.
not. And that's exactly why I would do it. It wouldn't be so much because I want 60-mile-per-hour blizzard conditions. It could just be a 8 to 12-inch wet snowfall in New York City around Christmas time. This would be more so just going there and getting the vibe, just like you
Yeah,
said, getting the postcard.
I
Yeah.
remember a couple years ago we had one of those that hit the Northeast. And I don't remember if it was like it wasn't Christmas itself, but it was either a little bit before or a little bit after where all the decorations were still up. And I remember watching Jim Cantori on the Weather Channel. And heck, if I was watching him on the Weather Channel, this had to be at least like high school, so probably 3, 4,
It
5
was
years
it
ago.
was it was 2020. It was early
Yeah,
December
there you go.
2020,
So yeah,
mid
it's been
December.
so it's been
Yeah.
about 4 years now, and I remember seeing him standing there in this small little Pennsylvania town with all these Christmas lights and all, and I was like, wow, this man has it made. That's the job right there. You get to stand there
Yes.
just in the snow and get paid for it with Christmas decorations. That's yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think of that, but that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah. We could talk an hour about that, about how I love my snow and how one of my just one of the dream scenarios would be, even here in South Carolina, to get a snowstorm. It don't have to be on Christmas Eve. You don't have to make it a beautiful winter storm moving in on Christmas Eve or anything. Just make it like the days and weeks leading up to Christmas. I mean, I think that would, you want to talk about Mitch being in his element. Oh, man, that would just be amazing, man. But if I have to travel for it,
Pizza and
that's cool.
snowflakes is all it takes to make Mitch a happy guy,
Oh
guys.
my gosh,
See what
man,
I'm
here we go
saying? There we
right
go. I
here.
didn't even plan that, and that was right behind you. Perfect. Great.
There we go, man. What about you, man?
Yeah, so I guess the most realistic that could happen sooner rather than later would be a hurricane. That would be super fun. And I say fun, obviously, hurricanes are bad. We all know that. But, we're nerds and we like the weather and we like driving into wind. So that'd be fun. And I posted a graph on Twitter this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but it was Atlantic hurricane season, like normal peak times. And
That was awesome.
and I put in where the start of school is and where the end of the semester is for me. And like right in between is like the big peak of like all the crazy hurricane stuff. So that has always made it difficult for me. It's not even like a financial thing or I'm scared of it. Like if I was off and I could do it without the stress of like missing class or missing homework assignments, sign me up. I don't care if I have to drive to like Florida. Heck, I'll even drive Alabama, maybe even Mississippi. Like I'll do it. But just it's such a difficult time of the year. Now, the dream would be to do it in the Carolinas. A Carolina hurricane would be fun, and I don't mean just like a coastal scraper that's 100 miles offshore. I mean like we're getting landfall from Savannah to Elizabeth City somewhere in there. That would be fun. I think that's doable. Maybe this year. I was texting Jamie Arnold, the chief meteorologist at WMBF in Myrtle Beach, about this. And I sent him that graph, and he was like, well, I guess we're going to need to do it on the weekend. I was like, yeah, but I also have most Mondays off from school this year. I was able to work that into my schedule. So, ideally, we could get like a Saturday afternoon landfall, and then I've got time to get there and get back and recoup and put some footage together. That would be the dream, and I think it's doable. We both think that this hurricane season is going to be crazy in a couple weeks, and I think next podcast we're going to really dive into what we expect the rest of hurricane season to look like, because I think by next weekend we'll probably know maybe a little bit more on when things are going to start getting active again. And we'll also talk about some long range predictions in that one. But yeah, so hurricane would be a big one. And again, preferably one that is of note. I don't want a weakening tropical. I don't even want a weakening category 2. I'd rather have a tropical storm that's going to category 1 making landfall than a category 2 that's like getting eaten up by shear and dry air. That's lame. So, give me the full thing. That would be fun. Other than that, something maybe long term is I do want to chase in the plains. I want to take a week at some point in my life. And it might be something I do at the end of senior year of college, like right when I graduate. that's probably the time to do it. Take a week and just go out there. And again, not even for like the craziness of it. True story, I've never been west of the Mississippi in my life. The furthest west I have been has been like Florida Panhandle. So I really do not get west very often, and that's something I got to do. Now I will get to go to New Orleans this coming winter for the AMS conference, so that'll be fun. But even then, I want to get like out into the plains. I've never been there, and obviously something about me that you might not know, or most people probably do know, is I'm a structure geek. When it comes to chasing, I love structure. I love a good storm. I love a good shelf cloud. Love a good wall cloud. And the plains, that's the place to do it. And also, as a bit of a photography nerd, I think that'd be pretty fun for my portfolio. So those are two big ones. Also, yeah, winter storms are fun to chase. Funnily enough, the first one of the first couple chases I did was like winter weather, like driving up to the mountains just to see it snow, if you want to even call that a chase. Which again, like you said, I'd consider that a chase. Heck, I consider when we saw the aurora a chase to me, because I drove up to the parkway and I drove around. So technically, I was chasing the aurora, if you want. But that could be a whole other discussion, what you consider a storm chase and what you don't. But yeah, those are some big ones for me that I think would be fun. But really, fingers crossed on the hurricane for both of us, because you know what? If we can and we can make it work, we will record a podcast as a hurricane is approaching. We'll do it. We'll sit in the car or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, me and Gerald are definitely going to do it together. I feel like that would be two great personalities together, and that would be awesome. And I think it's going to be tough for you, Gerald. I got to start soccer in August. It's going to be chaotic for both of us to try to fit it in. I will somehow make it work, and somehow it always ends up working. But yeah, between soccer practice on Tuesday, games on Saturday, I got to kind of fit that in a window too. So I hear you on that, brother.
Yeah, another thing that makes it tough, maybe some of the other meteorology majors in the world, if any of you are watching, but we'll get this. The toughest part about hurricane season being in that time frame is just staying focused during the school year. Same thing for winter storms. Obviously, I'm taking a lot of meteorology courses, but there's also non-meteorology courses. There's calculus and physics, and doing calculus homework with like a Category 3 hurricane about to make landfall somewhere is the most difficult thing that I could possibly have to do. So, yeah, it can be tough on multiple different fronts. But yeah, so again, those are some cool bucket list things. Mitch, we got pretty close to the hour mark here, so I think this was a good little podcast. Discussed a lot. Do you have any shout out you want to do? By the way, I posted the funniest thing on Twitter about a week ago because before last podcast, Mitch was like, "Let's do some shout outs at the end." I was like, "Yeah, no, totally." And then we got to it last week, and Mitch was like, I was like, "Mitch, this was your idea to do the shout outs. Please say somebody."
And I'm not prepared either again, so we'll have to we'll have to try again. But yeah, I'll listen to you, give some shout outs, and maybe I can think of some others.
I was just going to shout out my friends I saw the Twisters movie with. So I was with Maddie, Caleb, Olivia, and Cam. There were 5 of us. Again, drove all the way to Raleigh for that. Great movie, fun time. Also, shout out to Caleb specifically because he bought a ticket later that was in a different section. And so Caleb kind of got kicked off from sitting with us and had to sit at the other end. So Caleb, shout out to you for going down there and doing that. But yeah, so shout out to all those guys. Shout out also to the people who made the new Twisters movie. It's doing really good in the box office, so good to know that we're not the only weather nerds out there. Yeah, that's what I got for shout outs today.
Yeah, I really think weather movies and disaster movies, people love that stuff. Even, I got friends that really aren't into the weather and they love movies like that. My wife don't give a rat's behind about movies like that. But I think there's a huge audience that loves stuff like that. But, as far as shout outs for me, as far as names, I appreciate the weather community. We can be, certain ways, but at the end of the day, I think anybody can be a certain way. We can say the weather community's cringe sometimes, whatever, won't always trying to seek validation. But, the way I try to look at it is I appreciate the heck out of them. There's a lot of smart people out there that I've taken a lot of my knowledge on. What people don't realize is that all the knowledge that I have that I've, put into my YouTube videos, I would say 90% of the knowledge that I have, I would say that I've gained over the last 3 or 4 years. So, and I can tell you a lot of that is just from people on Twitter or X. I've just taken in a lot of knowledge. I've slowed things down. A guy that I love is the person who runs Tropical Tidbits, is Levi. He knows how to explain things on his Tropical Tidbits YouTube channel in a way that makes it so easy to understand. Then you got Convective Chronicles. I think his name's Trey, and he explains severe weather in a wonderful way. So there's a lot of great minds out there. Just understanding H5 in the wintertime. There's a lot of great people in the Northeast that knows how to talk about the troughs and stuff like that. And yeah, just I think that's very important. Being able to explain things in a way where the audience can understand. And I've gained a lot of knowledge from people in the weather community out there. So I appreciate everybody, really. I think everybody has something to add.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who aren't getting a degree in meteorology and you just kind of want to know a little, there are plenty of resources that are way cheaper than going to school for it, and also going to save you a lot of time and energy, like Levi and Convective Chronicles, two amazing channels that really dive into the science. And there's just so many great people on Twitter. Even me, as somebody who's halfway through a meteorology degree, I would still say a majority of what I've learned weather-wise was just through social media. Now, that'll probably change the final 2 years as I really dive into the science in a textbook. But yeah, so again, you can do a lot, just off of that. So, all right, well, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching again for the premiere of episode 2 of Scud Spotter Podcast. I messed up the name the first time, and me and Mitch had to restart this. But you think I'd know the name of the podcast I named, but either way. So yeah, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all next week for episode 3.